Yes, Nikki will start the meeting because the very first is election of chair.
Do we have any nominations for the role of chair of the committee? Is that seconded?
Yeah.
And would we like to vote? Is that right?
That's it, yeah.
Is that unanimous? Sorry? Was that?
Unless there's anybody else.
Oh, sorry. First time I've done this. I do apologise, councillors.
Ask for
Thank
nominations. Exactly.
Are there any other nominations for the role of chair?
Then ask them to vote.
We now take the vote. Those for? It's on, yes.
Bring it closer.
May I take that by general affirmation? Thank you.
Hang on, I haven't put mine on. Terribly sorry. So we'll go forward with the meeting. And thank you for having the confidence in leaving me in the chair. Thank you. So we go on to the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of March. We're only looking for accuracy. Does everybody agree with them? All those in favour, please. It's good that we do that. Thank you very much, Stuart. I must admit, when I read them, I thought there were some exceptional day that was, wasn't it? Thank you. So all agreed. We go for apologies for absence. And now we already have Councillor Alison Baker and Councillor Peter Wilkinson. And unfortunately, Bryn Griffiths has had some problem with his car breaking down, I think a puncture or something, so he's running late, but he will hopefully still try to get here. David?
Sorry. Well, it wasn't for leaving his car. He's like a captain of a ship that he was obviously going to go down with it. So yeah, but I did offer to bring him.
Oh, Angus Thompson, apologies as well. Thank you. It must be all this good weather that's kept everybody away from our meeting this morning, but no doubt they all have genuine reasons for not being here. So first of all, welcome everyone who is here to this meeting. As you know, we have Malcolm Warren who represents our MP, but I am at the moment, and I will say this at this stage, we're trying to find a date in the next sort of winter months when we get to it, to have the MP here, and we're working on that, as you know, Malcolm. I'm sure you are passing that message on to the MP. We may have to change the date to a Friday or something like that, and I'm sure you'll all agree that it would be good if we could get the MP here. So otherwise, and now today we actually have two students here who are going to the very first council meeting they'll have ever sat in, and they're from universities, so and I did ask them, you know, were they thinking of going to be working for a council, and they said yes. So let's all be very good today, sure that we can have a good meeting. Welcome. Now it's come to the election of vice chair, so I'm looking for nominations. I would like to nominate from the chair Councillor Caroline Dickinson. Have I any other nominations? So can I have a vote on Councillor Caroline Dickinson being the vice chair? Thank you. Take this on. Has any member any declarations of any interest in any of the agenda items? No? Very good. So there's been public agenda item 6, public participation. There's been no request to speak under this item. So we would then go on to agenda item 7. Unfortunately, we've got a difficulty, which it is the Community Safety and CCTV annual update. I think Daniel has been trying to get hold of Paul Romans, but there's nobody here from it, so we'll move on and hope that somebody may come later. Stuart. Or maybe.
Aha, if I press the right button, I'd have a brain. Can I propose that we note this report, just in case nobody does turn up, and that if anybody has any questions, they refer them to our clerk, so that they can get answers back to us for the next time. If they do come, then whoopee, but just in case they don't.
Thank you for that suggestion, Stuart. I quite agree, because I must admit there was a lot of information in there, and I must admit it was a good report, and it gave us a very good insight to our community safety. So it is a shame we haven't got somebody here. It could be, I mean, I got caught with the traffic lights there coming into Northallerton a mile or so back. So it could be they just got caught up on something. So we'll hope somebody maybe will turn up. So we'll go on to agenda item 8, which is traffic management for diversions. Jane Charlton, area managers here. Is there nobody from, was there somebody coming from Street Works?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Morning, members. I've got with me Neil Patterson and Jenny Middleton from Streetworks.
Do you want to come? Neil, do you want to come and sit forward, and then fetch another chair if possible? Well, before you start, Jane, as you know, all the members of the committee have had the questions that I put in, and it's good to see it. Quite a lot of members will have already know exactly what you've written, but it was good to actually see it, the answers there. And it is, I've got to say, it is one of the things that keeps cropping up many times in our area committees, many times in our parish councils. So that was why we felt that it was an important agenda item. So I'll go over to you, Jane.
Thank you. Well, I think the answers to the questions are quite self-explanatory, unless members do have any further questions, and it was as a Q&A session. So if anybody has any questions, Neil, Jenny, myself, happy to take those as appropriate.
Heather.
Yeah, I'm delighted, Jen, that you've brought this to us. I mean, you know that I've had lots of different issues, all related, not always directly, you know, North Yorkshire Council's responsibility of their transport management, but sometimes it's to do with the outside bodies that deliver it. And it is difficult, because if we're the first call, I mean, just to recall last week, and I didn't bother you, but, you know, when our utilities company turn up, close a road off on rural areas, causes a massive problem. And I was out at 8:30 last week trying to get a traffic sign which cut off the local nursery school. People couldn't get there, no notification. But I happened to have the lady's number who was actually for the utilities company, Quickline. And they just seem to turn up without having anything in place, which isn't directly aimed at them, but they've got to try and sort it out. And I've gone up, sorry, I mean, they're the people that we have the most problems with, I think Jane would suggest, and I deal with Hannah at area 2. It takes an awful lot of time. I mean, I must have made 4 phone calls, you know, in the end I managed to sort it myself. But I just find sometimes that the utility companies, I know there's emergencies and they're allowed to go and close the road, but these are the people that we get very frustrated with. That's one issue, and I know that if unless we tell you are not on the ground, you don't know what's happening. This is what the local councillor gets. As I say, very frustrating when people turn up with the children. It was literally straightforward thing. I just moved the signs and they could get in. It was about 10 yards, but I put my high vis on. You're not supposed to do that. But in the meantime, they should have done what they did. And, you know, it makes it very difficult. But I would say that I haven't got a great deal of faith in some of our traffic management systems. I mean, again, I don't want to reiterate, but it's the same thing last year. The diversion for 30 miles in my area, and Jane is aware of all this, that came from a different area, Area 3. They didn't, and Area 2 didn't know what was going on. It isn't, I'm just not confident that some of these traffic management systems, the people do enough due diligence to make sure it's in place. And our officers are having to go out and keep checking what somebody else is doing. And this is what frustrates me. As again, I'll go back to another issue about white lines. It took nearly a fortnight to sort something out. And again, it's coming back to all the pressures it's putting on people like Jane having to pick up phone calls. And I'm not confident always that the traffic management people that outsiders use are fit for purpose. And what can we do? Do we find them? Do we, you know, it's very difficult. Sorry, Jane, you know the problems I've been having. And again, as I said last week, I think I did two about it in one day. Anyway, I leave it there. It's how can we make sure that the due diligence and these traffic managers are held to account? I haven't a clue really, and I was told to go and to take some signs down last year because of all this. There was an accident nearly because where they put it, and they went and put. I was like Keystone Cops. I was going around putting them, taking them down. They putting them up. Sorry, but this is why I'm glad it's come to the meeting. Thank you.
Can we come back? So Neil's going to answer the first question about the utility company, and then I'll come back to you about the length of the diversion route, and just explain about that.
I think your frustration with the utility companies is well founded. I think the immediate powers that utility companies have been given by the Secretary of State, especially around emergency and urgent works, is a substantial challenge for Streetworks as a team. I'm in charge of the compliance side, so I have a team of inspectors that go out around the county looking at streetworks and trying to manage the utility works whilst they're in place. Now, you'll be well aware North Yorks has over 6,000 kilometres of road network, and currently I've got 10 inspectors to cover that entire network on a daily basis. That's not an excuse, that's the reality of our working position within Streetworks. The inspector in Area 1 is my most experienced inspector. He's been with the council since the 1990s. He's dedicated and he goes out and he challenges wherever he can. You mentioned diversion routes. I think one of the biggest challenges within the legislation around diversion routes is legally they have to be what we would class a like-for-like diversion route. So if the works have been done on a road which is open for HGVs, we can't allow the utilities to do a shorter diversion route that might take into account a road that isn't classed for an HGV route. And that's why, unfortunately, we've seen some horrific diversion routes that have encompassed Cumbria, Lancashire, North Yorkshire. We try wherever possible to challenge the poor practice by the utility companies. There is at times that habit where they'll turn up without any forward planning. Again, this is challenge for our regular performance meetings that we have with them. In terms of road closures, it's a huge challenge for the team because Jenny has a team that will be trying to assess works, especially emergency works, without any paperwork whatsoever, because the utilities don't actually have to inform us as in the council until 2 hours after they've arrived on site. So they can turn up, they can do the work, they can make a start, and we don't even know they're there for 2 hours after they've started. Again, not an excuse, but it's just, I think we need to have the reality of what we're working with within the legislation that the Secretary of State has set out. And unfortunately, it is very much in the utilities' power and not so much with us.
Emergency working. I understand that and I'll try and work with. This is like planned maintenance. This is like utility companies, ours particularly planned like quick plan. They put a road closure onto this it was on the site, but there was no signs up telling anybody prior to the work going. They just came and did it. It's there are issues where it's a statutory, but equally the ones that break the rules, and they're the ones that I'm going to get very cross about. Thank you.
I think you're quite right. I'll go through the process. Jenny can jump in as well. But in terms of the process for planned works, especially around road closures, the utility companies have to provide us with a permit application. Within that permit application, we'd also have a road closure application and also a traffic management plan. Now, we have a team of coordinators that look at those traffic drawings, look at the permit, and we specifically looked around trying to minimise disruption as best we can. I know it doesn't feel like that sometimes, but it's genuinely one of the main reasons that the team is in existence. We try and limit disruption. We try and challenge the utilities, especially around working times, around days of the week they might be working, especially on a road closure. We appreciate the disruption. And one of the biggest problems we know is the amount of dead space where there's utilities not on site working. And again, we challenge that through fixed penalty notices. If they have told us that they are going to do a set amount of things and then our inspector finds they haven't done that, then they can be open to fixed penalty notices. But again, just to give you a reality, it's £120 that if they pay within a certain amount of time gets reduced to £80. That's what the Secretary of State has deemed an appropriate sanction for the utility companies. And if you imagine, for example, traffic management, they can say to us that they're going to have a traffic management operative on site 7 till 7, 7 days a week. And we can only do it once because they've also got in the legislation that you can't actually challenge repeat offences. And I think that's the problem. We are fighting very much with our hands behind our back. None of this is excuses. This is purely our working model and how we have to actually perform day in, day out. I have a very dedicated group of people, as Jenny does, and we're just, to some extent, fighting a losing battle.
I accept all the governance, but I'm saying that utility companies, and I made the point, I actually managed that traffic management. There wasn't any, but I'm just saying there's, the ones, Quickline comes up there again. There are constant people that continue to do it.
Yes.
And it must be the most frustrating thing. I'm not going to have a go at Northumbrian Water because it was them last time, but leave it with you. You've got it in place, but they come along and you, half the time you probably don't know they've been and gone, but thank you.
Can I just add as well? When you said you're not getting the advance warning, part of the road closure application actually specifies that they will make advance warning a week beforehand. Sorry, can you hear me? So when they sign the road closure application to ourselves, it does say that they should be notifying business owners, residents, putting signs. They should. That's because it's a legal document that we're sharing. So.
Right, Annabelle.
Sorry,
I was just going
to answer. Sorry, Councillor Wilkinson, just some of the further points Councillor Morehouse has made. So going back to the length of the diversions, this is something we see right across the rural county of North Yorkshire. We can't avoid it, whether it's within the Area 1 or Richmond area. We've got diversions from Hawes going across into our Area 5, up onto the A66. Yes, 30-mile diversions plus. Likewise, across in the moors. It's something that we cannot avoid that, unfortunately. But local traffic, we have to, or the utility company, whether it's our works or utility works, have to, as Neil said, divert the traffic onto the nearest route that is of the same or equivalent standard to cater for all the traffic. Local traffic will choose to use the local routes that they know, and that has to be accepted that is how that will work. But we can't avoid these, unfortunately, rural nature of North Yorkshire. We can't avoid these lengthy diversions. the other thing that you mentioned, are the traffic management companies suitable? Everybody who operates within the highway has to be accredited to certain standards, whether that comes under the Highways Act, the Traffic Management Act, or the New Roads and Streetworks Act. They have to be accredited to that standard to enable them to operate within the highway. So, yeah, we wouldn't let we as the highway operations team wouldn't allow a company to operate within our patches if they weren't on our schemes. Likewise, Jenny and Neil check all that when a utility company applies to them for their traffic management. Final thing I just wanted to mention was, as our members will know, the North Yorkshire Council are moving into lane rental. Now, this is the process where companies will pay for road space. That is only on the strategic routes, but it is a step forward, and that's gone through the government approval to do that. So they pay per the day. The utility companies on the identified stretches of road that fall under lane rental legislation, they pay for the day per the day to be on the site. So that is that is really good, because then they will be tightening up on. They don't want to be paying for time when the road stood empty, nobody's doing any work, but it's under the traffic management. And finally, just a respectful little bit of advice, please don't move signs. If you will, if members do see anything that's wrong, ring the area office. We can get a highway officer out there. Ring Streetworks, they can get the Streetworks inspector out there to make sure that those signs are put in place. But we don't want, one, you're injuring yourself, or two, any claims coming in that anybody's moved signs into a different place that they were originally planned to be. So that's just a little respectful ask, please.
Sorry, I must come back on that, because firstly, I was told to remove signs, and it took nearly a week, and it was admitted that the traffic diversion was wrong. So this is why I have very little faith in it. I'm sorry, I'm going back a year ago, but 4 times this year I had to things that had signs changed. This should be done before the work start. I'm sorry, but I've spent more time.
Maybe, Heather, it would be better if you two got together.
Okay,
and
I'm just
actually
saying,
discuss this.
when I said I'd move signs, it was because I was told to do that. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. And thank you very much for your update this morning. My sort of comments really aren't related to the diversions, but I promised the residents of Morton-on-Swale I would raise this, and Jane's aware of the issue. As you know, the A684 through Morton-on-Swale is a strategic road. And recently, there have been many road closures due to building works, Yorkshire Water, various different companies. And poor Morton-on-Swale have really been hammered because the companies haven't been adhering to the policy that they said they would do. So I would really like your assurance that the measures that you've taken, and I really welcome the lane rental, Jane. That will be really helpful, I think, in helping us go forward to finding the companies where necessary, because these roads weren't manned as were promised between 7 and 7, and you kindly sent somebody out immediately, but again the following day they did the same thing. So they're quite blasé, and it's not fair, because we all know if you're a little bit late for work and you're in a queue of traffic, how frustrating is that? But more concerning, there was an ambulance in that queue as well, which really worried me. So I'd be really grateful if you could actually look at that, because I know that there's 3 roadworks coming up, within that area. So thank you. And I'm sorry to be parochial, but I think it's important because that road affects thousands of people every day. Thank you.
That's fine, Councillor Wilkinson, because I was caught stuck there this morning, and I thought, how long is this going to take? But I was okay because I was in good time. Jane, no, it's Jenny.
So we do try and get people to work together. There is a big push on collaboration, but as Jane was saying, we're bringing in lane rental to try and encourage this. So if they work together at the moment, they'll get 50% off. But for example, to work on a major road or 6 working days cost them £298. That is it. So a utility company is going to say, well, 50% of that is today's rate. Whereas with lane rental, that will cost them £20,000 to work there for 6 working days. If they work together, they will get money off that. So there will be more of an incentive for people. I've been looking at fees and charges quite a lot, can you tell? So there's a big incentive to get people in. So hopefully then, rather than, you know, someone coming in and then it's open again for a week and someone coming back in, we can just get them in all together at the same time and it's minimal disruption to the public.
As part of our research, when we were looking at the lane rental model, we looked at some of the other councils, highways authorities that are currently working with lane rental. And West Sussex is the nearest one that we had to kind of a rural council area. And what they found in the first 2 years of their lane rental working was that immediate and urgent works on lane rental streets, the completion of those works within the 2-day grace period that they were given. So you get 2 days free of charge and then you start getting charged. What they found after 2 years was utility companies completing works within those first 2 days had gone up to over 90%. And so it's, from our perspective, it was a true reflection that money talks. And the reality is £290 to book the road space, £80 if they don't have a traffic management operative on site. From the Morton and Swale argument, my inspectors there daily. We're aware of the trouble. We're aware of the residents' frustration. What I'd also say with regards to development works is, as Jenny's already intimated, we push all the time for collaborative practice. We want utility companies working together. What the developers don't want to do, though, is pay for all that work to be done at the same time because they haven't sold the houses, they don't have the money, they can't actually pay for all the infrastructure to be put in at one time. So they physically stagger the work to allow themselves to pay it. And then that puts Jenny's team in a really horrible position because they can only assess the permit applications that come in. And we promote and we ask and we try and get collaborative practice, but it's just, it's a challenge.
If I may just come back quickly. Thank you. I can appreciate the challenge, but you can imagine the frustration of those commuters when they drive past and there's no work being done. So anything that we as a council can do to support you, please say, because we will.
Kevin,
A meeting can't go across without Kevin saying the A6136. But I must admit, when we had problems with the development on there recently, I had to go down twice and speak to the operatives. One was said, and I knew the conditions that it should be one each side. But I must say, although it was challenging and it really did upset a lot of the residents, your department acted straight away the very next day to go down and speak to these people and make sure they're operatives. I don't really blame the operatives because I went there and said, "Where's your mate?" He goes, "I don't know if he's down there or not." So it's just one of them things. But they did cure it quite. But we had 15 minutes where both lights were on red because I believe the default settings, if them lights go wrong, they both go on red. I think people should know that. If something goes wrong with them lights, there's a glitch, they both go red and it absolutely causes mayhem. So, but I do thank the department and yours, especially the reaction was good. It was a horrible day when it all went wrong, but the next day, and it gradually got better, although nobody will ever admit that. And thank God the works are finished, but thank you very much.
well, I'll just come with, we talked about utilities, but we also have highways. And a problem that did arise at one point, I mean, there's lots of bits of problems arise, but one of them, I mean, trying to go through it logically, you've got to, North Yorkshire Highways employ a company, the tendered, etc. We put the company in to actually, say, do the resurfacing or what have you. Got your plans, everything right, going to be closed on certain days. But then, for some reason, all of a sudden, they have to take the cat eyes out. And all of a sudden, which I presume is the contractor that has actually asked somebody else to go and take the cat eyes out. Of course, no diversion signs at all, and all of a sudden, road closed, everybody not knowing where to go. I'm just wondering how highways themselves deal with when they're subcontracting, because I think in this situation, I've seen this, who don't know which diversion. And of course, if nobody, at the time I was down here, so I didn't find out till next day, and then next day we had it as well. And to be fair, somebody came out the second I reported it, but to sort the diversion signs out. But do you get many of those sort of problems, or was that maybe just a one-off that I happened to have, where it's subcontractors have to do some work before the main work start and don't even put any diversion signs out at all, just put road closed? I mean, because this all of a sudden causes bigger mayhem than if there was a diversion sign.
Okay, thank you. So yes, surface stressing operations, there's several phases of it. So there will be road closures in some locations, where other locations, depending on the road width, it can be done under traffic management. But the contractor will remove the studs, the existing road studs, dress the road, then sweep the road, lining goes back, and then finally the road studs if appropriate. So that's 5 different elements of work that's carried out, and sometimes 5 different closures on one particular length of road. In the main, it goes well, but like we said at the very beginning, sometimes things get missed, and we've had 2 instances this year where the road closure hasn't been in place for the studding works. We address that on a weekly basis. When this happens, we address it immediately with the contractor, but also there's a weekly progress meeting that I attend to represent the whole of the county, along with reps from each area, and we address each and every one of those issues with the contractor at the time to ensure that it doesn't happen again. I won't say it doesn't happen again, it does, but it's generally, in the main, across the contract, it operates well, but sometimes things go, miscommunication. We had one last week at Richmond where one of the officers from the contract had said that the road closure was in place when actually the miscommunication, and it hadn't been. And we try to address those on a daily basis, but the head of the company has actually stepped in and resolved that one with them now.
So if one of the contractors do this, because I know, although we've employed them to do it, but they are contractors, do we fine them when they've done something like this, or do we just say, don't do it again?
No, we don't fine them, because it's all the contract is under NEC 4 contract rules, and there isn't a mechanism to fine them for that. But obviously, it all falls under quality of performance, so their performance is assessed, and all those little bits go towards the assessment for future when they're submitting a tender documentation or tender submission in the future.
Thank you very much, Councillor Parsons.
Yeah, thanks. Who wrote the response to Councillor Peacock? And I'm not wanting to be a bad boy. I wanted to say whoever did it, well done. And can you make sure that that's in the induction manual for new councillors when they come in? Because to actually have it black on white was really, really helpful. And even though I think I knew most of it, it was just quite nice now to have a document that I can refer back to. You might need to add, right, you might need to add a name and some telephone numbers or something for new members. And then I think the one thing we're all missing is that we've cut staff to the bone in highways. So we don't have many inspectors. We don't have a huge number of people to go out and look at everything. And the level of fines that they can raise is absolutely ludicrous. So we had a case where Yorkshire Water thought they were coming in. They were told they couldn't because the work was going to cause so much disruption that they had to work overnight. They forgot to tell their traffic management people that that was the case. So they came and installed traffic lights and signs and what have you. And for 2 whole days, the whole town was gridlocked. And the total fine for Yorkshire Water forgetting to tell their contractor was £500. And to a member of the public, that just seems absolutely ludicrously tiny when you've spent an hour and a half trying to get from school to town centre or whatever. And it just, I think we need to be a little more open on how limited we are to actually cause these companies to think again, because the 500 quid Yorkshire Water won't miss. They probably won't even notice it going out of their bank account. We don't notice it coming into our bank account, and it hardly covers the amount of time and energy that our office has had to spend trying to get Yorkshire Water to come back and remove everything. But the public don't know. They just assume we're getting £100,000 a fine or whatever. And that is obviously, after this morning, not the case. So I think we just need to be a little more, when we're communicating, we need to perhaps indicate that we can only fine a company up to X or whatever, just so people realise how ridiculously weighted the system is against us.
Thank you, Stuart. I agree with you there. And that's why it's good to have had this as an agenda item, so we're all very aware, and you're quite right about the questions. Yeah, I'll let you come back in a second, but I just said how good it is. I'm just wondering, now I'm not saying it should be, but since, you know, our parish councils, would we be able to send this to the parish council, Jane? Would it be inappropriate to send it out to our parish councils? I mean, you can have another look at it before we send it. Oh, Daniel's gone now, but we can talk to Daniel about, I'm just talking about our Richmond ones at the moment, you know.
I think we're,
Yeah.
you know, if it's something that you wish to share with your parish councils when you're at the parish council meetings, then yeah, there's nothing, there's no information in there that parish councils shouldn't see, read.
Well, I mean, I think, because I agree with Stuart, that actually having it written down, seeing what happened, because, you know, then when this, oh, I've never seen anything like what happened last week in our area type of thing crops up, it's good that they would have the information that would help in that. Well, then we can distribute it. Oh, that's very good, Nikki. I'll let you finish off on what you heard.
I think it's good to note that all utility companies are profit-making machines. That is their role. That is what they're out for. I think it's also really important to note that the Department of Transport ensure that we are not allowed to be a profit-making service. We are solely self-funded, so our income is solely generated from the income we get from our inspections, but we cannot make a profit. So we cannot increase our staff because we have to make it balance the books at the end of the month. I think in terms of your point around the fines for working without a permit, I think the Department of Transport have said that they are looking at increasing that fine to £1,000. That's currently going back to the Commons for, I think, final approval, but the hope is that will come in some point in 2025. And in terms of just our battle to actually keep people working, I think lane rental is going to be a huge plus. It's going to allow us to hopefully increase our staffing size. It's going to increase our powers. And believe me, Streetworks as a service and our colleagues at Highway Ops are very motivated to take the fight back to them. We just need a bit of support from the Department of Transport, and any influence and pressure you could put on our local MPs just to take that message back to Westminster would be hugely appreciated from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, last word, Jane.
Yeah, I just wanted to caveat that it is just the strategic network, though, where we get a lot of instances on the local roads. You know, Yorkshire Water, sorry, I shouldn't, probably utility companies closing.
Say Yorkshire Water, it's fine.
Utility companies closing roads and putting traffic management on and not following the correct processes on little narrow roads. It won't impact on that. It is purely the strategic network.
Thank you, and that's been very interesting, and we will make sure that this can go to the parish councils, and then at least when anything is raised with them, they've got the answers. And we've got Malcolm, who I'm hoping will take that back to our MP about the finding, you know, chance to find people and, you know, maybe promote a bit more, that we could get a few more powers within our organisation. Thank you. We'll move back now to agenda item 7. Now, I want to make it clear that apparently the safety team were given the wrong timing, because there'd been no public speaking and questions. So consequently, they would have been fine for 10:15 normally. So they haven't been late. I think it's the fact we didn't have any public speaking today. So I think there's quite a team here. We thought if you came and sat down here. Do you want to sit that side, or there's maybe more for everybody around? There's somewhere for everybody around here. As many of you as we can have. Very good. Is it Paul?
Yes.
So thank you. So we're moving back to agenda item 7. And as I've just said, they weren't late. It's the time they were told. So a very interesting report. But what I'd like you to do, Paul, is to, as you speak, you know, introduce your team, and so everybody knows exactly who we have. And I'm just leaving it over to you for this annual update.
Good morning, councillors. So my name is Paul Romans. I'm Community Safety and CCTV Manager for North Yorkshire Council. So I have a county-wide brief. Some of you may have seen before. I think it came and presented a few months ago. I have a county-wide brief, but I primarily cover the coast, so Scarborough across to Richmond. I'll let people introduce themselves individually and go through to my right.
Morning, thank you. I'm Helena Watkins, Senior Community Safety and CCTV Officer. I cover Hambleton and Richmond, or the former Hambleton areas and Richmond areas.
Morning, Kieran Conlon. I'm the Inspector for Richmondshire Neighbourhood Policing Team. I'm Chris Hughes. I'm the Neighbourhood Policing Team Sergeant for Northallerton, here today representing Hambleton.
Can I just interrupt? Everyone's had the report and read it, so we don't need you to go through the report, but if you want to just raise any specifics, and then we'll be opening for questions.
Yeah, that's at all, Chair. Yeah, I would hope that everybody read the report. That's nice to hear. Just to kind of emphasise some things for us, I think, in this area, which I think is obvious looking at both the police report and the community safety report in terms of issues we've had with young people and antisocial behaviour and what that looks like for us. That comes across in the issues that we've had with young people riding motorbikes and scooters in antisocial manner, groups of youth causing ASB in Richmond area, and in other areas in Northallerton as well. That has been a key kind of area of focus for us. There is some ongoing work county-wide that we're looking at in terms of our youth multi-agency problem-solving process that we're looking at. Helena's got some fantastic partnership work that she does here in terms of bringing partners together. We've got a meeting with Children and Family Services on the 31st of July as a wider strategic group to discuss how we can potentially move that forward and look at the work that we're doing with young people across the county, because it can be a bit of a challenge. I'll also draw attention to the Richmond Falls, where we did formally have a public space protection order in place, which ended last year. Again, the Community Safety Hub at Richmond Northallerton have done some fantastic work there with Project Spotlight initiative that we've run, which has seen, I think was it no reports at our last check, our last PSPO meeting. We had no reports at all in the Richmond Falls area, which, when you consider the fantastic weather we've had recently, is a huge improvement on where we've been previously. We've also had requests in Osmotherley and Lehman Bar, sorry, thank you. Lehman Bar in terms of the PSPO. So we did have a public space protection order in Lehman Bar, which has also ended now as well. And we've done a lot of work. We started to do a lot of work in terms of a Project Spotlight there, linking in with businesses, some new signage up that we've put up to try and tackle the issue at its core rather than
Certainly from a Hambleton point of view, we've done a lot of work surrounding the antisocial behaviour this past 12 months. at the beginning of the year, end of December, beginning of January, we had a huge outbreak in Brompton, and as a result, we worked with various partners, housing associations, to pretty much eliminate that. We ended up with a closure order and a closure order extension, so took somebody's house off them for the maximum time of 6 months, and that was slightly unusual in terms of it was a privately owned house rather than a housing association. But we've also worked alongside two housing associations in that area to ultimately evict two other problem tenants and houses that were causing antisocial behaviour. In the last week, we've been back to court for another closure order in Down Oak Grove, and alongside that, we've been looking at antisocial behaviour from youths, which is a far longer process, but we've worked with various families and other agencies in terms of the antisocial behaviour around Northallerton and in Thirsk, Beedale and Stokesley. Again, without any specific questions, that's a highlight regarding the antisocial behaviour. But if there's anything Hambleton-wise, then feel free to ask.
And sorry, yeah, Richmondshire-wise, the antisocial use of the motorbikes, two-wheeled vehicles, we've seen a big decrease in that after working with the road policing group and seizing a number of those vehicles and dealing with the offenders as well. And then the Community Safety Hub as well in Hamilton, Richmondshire, does link into the wider Community Safety Partnership, which is a county-wide, where we have looked at our priorities around domestic abuse, preventing and reducing serious violence, and so the Eastern Protected Prepare Group, but then we do have one for the kind of central and western areas as well, where we look at everything to do with counter-terrorism, and our Prevent group around, which is the early steps before we get to hopefully worried about anything from a tech perspective, where we get in as early as we can with individuals coming to note for ideological potentially issues where they might become violent or anything like that. So that's that can be the concerns. And so that's how we support the wider Community Safety Partnership with the ongoing work in the locality. Helena, do you want to touch on anything that we've done? I don't know if you want to touch on anything that particularly, if you don't.
No, it's just been really good collaborative work, and I think working with the police, I think we've seen some great results over the last 12 months. So I just really want to sing the praises of my team really at this point.
Well, now open it up to any questions. Start with Kevin and then on to Stuart.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for a really good report and a better understanding from us. Just a couple of points I'd like to ask you about is barriers of arrests and prosecutions. In the figures, there was 1,056, which was incidents, and 59 arrests. I just wonder what the barriers are. And just a second point while I'm at it is, can you explain the CCTV in Catterick Garrison? Is it solely for terrorist activity, or is there any anti-crime involved in that as well? Because I hear conflicting things about what that CCTV can actually do. And the last question is, what sort of quality are we after for prosecutions? Because I hear a lot of things getting reported, and it's either the quality wasn't good enough to go forward, or the cameras were pointed in the wrong direction. I just wonder if you could put some meat on them bones for me, please.
I'll pass the police colleagues for the first. That's okay.
Just remember the first question, because I was going to take that one on.
It was about the amount of arrests to the actual amounts of incidents.
So I'm guessing in terms of the incidents will be the antisocial behaviour incidents rather than the. Right, yeah. So the incidents mentioned are the incidents that CCTV have been asked to point their cameras at, and that can be any number of things. It could be anything from a report of a shoplifter where they have a scan around town. It could be anything from we ask 2 days later that we've had a report of assault. Is there anything captured? And equally, in terms of barriers to arrest, the law changed 10 years ago, where we now have to have a necessity to arrest somebody, and there's 7 or 8 criteria. The other option is, just because an arrest hasn't been made doesn't mean a prosecution doesn't follow. So we invite people in for a voluntary interview in the cases where we would identify a suspect, and then that would then be down to whether we have sufficient evidence to prosecute them going forward. But yeah, arrests doesn't mean, historically, we would have absolutely said 100 arrests, really good, 100 prosecutions. That doesn't mean that. It means we've only had the necessity to make those arrests in those cases. Do you know what this used to be, Patrick? Or
the CCTV at Patrick is involved with crime as well, and managing crime, and the position of those cameras will be fixed in position with patrols conducted by the operators throughout the day, moving the cameras. But those positions of the camera will be based on where the most likely evidence is required, but there isn't 100% coverage of.
Yeah, just for so that the cameras at Catterick Garrison and North Yorkshire Council's cameras, they don't come back to our control room in Northallerton. So that's, yeah, in terms of how they're used and when, that's the Ministry of Defence who control those cameras. It's not North Yorkshire Council. They don't come back to us at all. In terms of like the quality of footage, so the cameras that we have coming back to Northallerton, we had an upgrade quite recently, so we have fantastic coverage in this area, and really high quality, high definition cameras. So that's not a concern in terms of what that looks like. It's whether they're pointing in the right direction at the right time can sometimes be sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't, unfortunately.
Can I just come back to that?
Yeah,
I'm going to really push it here. While I'm here, I have a lot of complaints about private CCTV footage, and especially Ring doorbells pointing at other people's properties. I know that I've tried to find out the guidance on it. It seems to be no law against it. It seems to be interpretation. Could you guide us on anything complaints I get about that?
Do you want me to say that? Yes, that's right. So in terms of the only real restrictions are the data protection laws that are enforced by the Information Commissioner's Office. Their guidance is not to capture other people's property, other people's daily activity. Clearly, when you're in a street of terraced houses or back to back, then that's unavoidable. It's certainly not something the police would prosecute. We would pretty much view it as a civil issue, and for people to go seek their own legal advice or to go speak to the Information Commissioner's Office. But when you speak to the ICO, the guidance on their website is pretty much they are unlikely to take prosecutions for private CCTV. We do get a lot of neighbour disputes reported of pretty much the same thing. Their cameras looking in my window type scenario, and when we actually go check and view the footage, which most people are happy for us to do, it rarely does capture, but people are very paranoid that they're being captured on somebody else's CCTV.
Thank you very much. I know I pushed my luck there for another question, but thank you.
Stuart.
Yeah, thank you. Richmond's quite good, isn't it, at the moment? Given the absolute hissy fit we had about the cancelling of the order or the reissuing of the order, it's quite amusing now to see that all those people having their tantrums and what have you, there's nothing really to report. We've gone back from that terrible time of COVID to normal activity. Most of the people down there are people from the town. We do obviously still get some incomers, but it's nowhere near as problematic as it ever has been. I have a weekly or a standing invitation to attend the meetings. I've not had to attend any of them because everything is going, I wouldn't say perfectly, but very close to perfectly. And I would just like to say thank you very much for that, because it's lovely being back in a normal, happy, less than frustrated town. So thank you.
No, thank you for that, Stuart. Councillor Parsons, I think what we have seen down at Richmond is some great collaborative working with parking. You're right, the last meeting that we had for Project Spotlight, there was only 3 attendees. And I do very much take that as a positive when we was looking at 15 and 20 around the table at the very beginning. And everybody wanted to have a slice of that argument. But now it manages itself. We can make sure that we're keeping the paths and the road. We're taking in responsibility of just the general maintenance of the area now. That's how trivial some of the problems are. I know we've had quite a serious accident on the Falls, didn't we, a couple of weekends ago, but that wasn't ASB related. That wasn't any sort of crime or disorder, was it? It was just a tragic accident. But moving forward, I can't foresee any issues, and I don't. We haven't had anything this weekend, and it's been quite a beautiful weekend as well. So I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, but I'm not going to uncross the fingers for summer, but I'm hopeful that we have a peaceful summer. So thank you for that acknowledgement. It's really good.
Thank you for that. I've just had just a quick question, basically. Farm Watch from the Upper Dales, are they still involved? Do we still have the Farm Watch? Because I know a lot of the members originally, unfortunately, they're getting a little bit older. And I'm not sure if it's still working.
There is still Rural Watch, Farm Watch in existence. A lot of it is run via WhatsApp groups nowadays, and predominantly our Rural Task Force run or deal with those sides of things. But certainly for the Hamilton area, there's a couple of very active groups at the north side of Northallerton. So yes.
Thank you. Let's just last question, definitely.
You've just gone on to that. I was about to say thank you very much for the report. And I'm sorry your catch-up meetings. I'm almost in another meeting, but I'll try and have to make a decision and probably leave an Apple Park once, which I'm going to talk about briefly because I'm onto that side of it where we're going to sort of Chopgate area onto the boundary. And you're on about the Road Task Force and working together. I mean, and the problems are a lot of them to do with coming in from Teesside, and collaborative working is essential, and I appreciate that. And of course, that two people, we've lost the funding for rurality budget. So it's great that you're picking up some of the work because the money just isn't there that we had before. And the national parks are probably where they do have people going out there and scouting about and going around and reporting. I'm quite sure that you're working with them. And I just want to thank you very much for that. And we do a lot of problems in Great Ayne. We used to have some problem-solving meetings, but ours have settled down a bit now, and I don't have to resurrect them. But thanks for that. Thanks for the report. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I certainly agree. It's been a very good report. It's a bit like the previous. When it's all written down, you can actually see exactly what is happening. I must admit, I think I attended a couple of the community hubs, but timing or busy on various other things. But I hope to keep sending them through to me.
Yeah, everybody's welcome to attend those. I think invitations go out to everybody, but we're holding them bi-monthly now, so we're not going to bore you with everything every month now. So, but you're more than welcome, and we have some really good guest speakers as well. So good information.
Well, I must admit I enjoyed the ones I've been to, but as Heather said, they often clash with something else because we've all these other meetings. But thank you very much for its excellent report, and thank you all for coming. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 9, which is progress on our 50 seed fund, as I call it. We have got oh, come on, I thought I would get this right. Inaki.
Yeah.
Am I on the ball? Yeah. Who was actually the person that has actually dealt with the report. So we'll start with you, Louisa, so you can then start this agenda item.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is to note the completion of the Economic Regeneration, Tourism and Transport Project Development Fund. So I gave a variable update at the last meeting about 2 of the projects, which was the parking spaces for private hire taxis at Hildyard Row being complete, and the A684 Moreton Flats responsive signage project. Whilst not complete, the contribution that this fund has made to that particular project has now also been completed. So it's the 3rd project that we're here just to highlight today. So this was the This was the transport scheme to support individuals to get to places of work, study and health provision. And that report was included within this pack. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments.
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is, we've all read this this report, Transport to Work and Study Review. So let me get the wording right. So really, it's basically based on questions to yourself. I'll start with Kevin.
Just a couple of things. I noted in the report there's no information of home to school transport, and that's been in place from September. I just wondered why that was. Secondly, just wondered where the information was gathered from in general. And they talk about a lot of things in the report. It's quite a detailed report, but I don't think there's a fair reflection on our bus services are actually failing what we've got now. The ones that are in Richmondshire from Colburn to Catterick and to Darlington are just abysmal, and I don't think that's fairly reflected in that report. I've got a meeting with Arriva buses, and it's just a non-stop thing with these buses. I know it's gone to the mayor's office, and I've been in contact with the mayor. But is this going to be sent to the mayor because he's in charge of buses now? So I'd like to see some reflection of that, because Colburn area is an area development where we're trying to get business in, and we've got development houses coming in, and the A613 is a key road network, is blockage for our buses to get through. So although it's not to do with roads, it has an effect on how the buses run. Thank you.
So just on the first element, this project was looking at more around employment and support the transport links to further education. So didn't include, as you say, the home to school transport, as that's a separate piece. I'll let Inaki cover the other elements.
So most of the data, like how buses operate and timetables and all of that, was mainly gathered from the North Yorkshire Council web. We've also looked at Travel Line and Google Maps. But yeah, that's the main sources. So the main one is North Yorkshire Council web that has all the timetables for all the bus services. And for Colburn, I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'll need to check that one.
Just to say that this report will be sent to the mayor's office. Obviously, it aligns with the work that they're doing. So yeah, it will be sent out to
them. Stuart. Oh, sorry, Kevin, I'll let you come back.
Okay. The specific questions I asked it was, where was the information from for the report? And secondly, what was about the reflection of the right, we're on about buses and getting to education. I don't think I got an answer there, that there's no reflection of the bus service, not just in Richmond, failing the county, and there's lots of things. So I just wondered why it wasn't in the report. I know you're saying to education and stuff, but it actually is about the whole area. So I just wondered why that, but specifically, where was the information from was the actual question. I don't think I got an answer to.
So yeah, the information on bus services is mainly from North Yorkshire Council website. So this public transport web, where there's all the timetables and bus services.
So I just come back at that. So you're saying the information will come from the bus services themselves and some from county, is that correct?
Oh, it's so North Yorkshire Council collects all that data. It's all on their web. So we collected that data and put it in the report.
When I read the report, I sensed that one of the things, and it's nearly like a recommendation, is that there's that much different information and it's maybe not all on one area, and that's probably you know, unless you knew where to look, you would have to look maybe 3 different areas. So whereas I will get this right, Inapi has gone to the one website for the information, which is exactly where residents have been going, but there isn't all the information there. I think that's what Kevin is saying, that it isn't coming over, and it's where you are actually getting the information from. Am I
Yeah, okay.
about right on that?
Yeah, so we've consulted North Yorkshire Council, which has all the information. Then Travelline also has all the information, but for example, Google Maps doesn't have all the information. And this is one of the recommendations that we've put in the study, that all sources of public transport data should have all the information. Because, for example, I use Google Maps to inform myself, and if a service is not in Google Maps, for me it does not exist, so I wouldn't know that a service. So that's one of the points that we've recommended.
And the company who's done it, are you an in-house company that's done it, or are you independent?
So we are a company owned by North Yorkshire Council, but we are independent.
Thank you. Stuart.
Thank you. This report, I think, reflects what should be happening if our bus services were actually provided as the companies say they should be. Kevin's concern that I share is that, unfortunately, if you speak to the users, and in particular in his area and my area, the main commercial company is a hoot. They turn up if they're in the mood to turn up. They don't turn up. They could miss 3 hours worth of services. They don't apologise. They just leave you standing there. And there's no way of actually finding out whether you can get from Colburn to Richmond at a specific time, because you're relying on an unreliable service. And you're relying on a service that doesn't actually provide sufficient space for the number of passengers. So we have frequently comments and complaints from people in Richmond wanting to go to Darlington to work, but the bus is full before it even gets to Richmond, so they can't actually get to work either. So I think there needs to be a piece of work carried out talking to the users of the services to find out just how reliable they are, if they're reliable at all. And I'm afraid the main commercial provider in our area is not at all reliable, not a trustworthy company, and has no regard for passengers whatsoever.
Yeah, as part of this report, we did spend time talking to businesses and some education providers, because that was the sort of key part of this, looking at how does it actually affect businesses in the area. The Let's Talk Transport study had done a piece of research previously that was incorporated within, which was talking to residents around transport provision. But certainly reliability came out in the conversations that we had with businesses, and for people potentially not being able to use the transport to get to work, as you say, because the reliability in some places just wasn't there.
The thing that people forget, and a lot of the businesses probably ignore, is that there's a good culture of self-reliance in our area, and you tend to adapt your way to work depending on whether you can or you can't, because the last thing you want is to lose a job because the bus is rubbish. And so there's a huge number of people who get to work by roundabout ways, relying on family and friends and so on, and that never actually gets fed back to the business because the business doesn't need to know. And I think given the lack of reliable public transport, it is vital that we engage with those people to find out exactly what's going on and how they are avoiding losing their job or being penalised because of the unreliable public service.
Yeah, and I did pick up some responses when we were speaking to businesses about that. So sometimes it was the employer that we were speaking to rather than the business directly, who were saying the same. I completely agree. There is a number of workarounds that both businesses and employees are making because of the transport provision. So looking at alternatives, providing accommodation, putting things within recruitment to say you must have your own transport. So we did pick quite a few pieces up about that when we were doing the study.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Annabelle.
Thank you very much for this report. Can I just refer back to 3.1 about the responsive signage project for the A684? Do you have an update at all, please? Because I have been asking, but I haven't got one as yet. And I mean, Jane, if you haven't got one today, I'm happy to take it in writing if that's easier for you. Thank you.
Yeah, from the perspective of this report that Louise has produced, yes, the project is complete because the funding was to purchase the equipment, which we've done. The problem we have at the moment is, like we've just talked about previously in the previous item agenda, we're having difficulty in getting the road space booked in to do the work because of the utility works in Morton on Swale, and also we need to repair the bridge. So there's two pieces of work to be done which will require traffic management on the A684. For one, for to build a maintenance lay-by to enable the monitoring equipment to be installed, and to repair the bridge. Once we get that lay-by installed, which we're hoping to do over the next couple of months, subject to the utility works, then the signs will be going up, and we hopefully have them by the end of the summer, I would have hoped. But it is subject to all the permits that are going in for the development, I'm afraid.
Caroline.
Now, this is a project that I put forward last year. I'd like to thank Louisa and Inaki for pulling this study together and including so much information and detail. Also for including the work of Harbus, who have spent a lot of time pulling together a bus network across the constituency and producing timetables and things. With the announcement this week, I think it's a very timely piece of work, and thank you for all the hard work you've done. This is something for the whole constituency. In the press recently, businesses in a Yorkshire Dales village said lack of public transport means recruiting staff is a problem. We also know there's a problem for people who need to get to James Cook Hospital. There is a route, but it takes some working out. In the past, there was a bus that ran between the Priory and James Cook, but lack of funding put an end to that. In the recent spending review, the Chancellor announced a £750 million fund, and York and North Yorkshire will be among the first areas to share this. The aim is to see how best to run buses in rural and coastal communities as well as urban ones, and build the foundations for a working rural bus franchising model to connect people in rural areas to access work, education and health services. When the Mayor attended our last meeting, he was advised of this project and asked that when completed, we sent the information to him. In the light of the recent announcements, we can say we have done the groundwork, and hopefully this can be used as a blueprint for other constituency areas. Richmond and Northallerton are leading the way on this, and I would like to propose that we submit this report to the Mayor and ask that we be considered to be that pilot area.
I'll second what Caroline has said. I think one of the things that I feel is that this has cost £40,000, which is a huge amount of money, but we have the evidence now. And what I'd like to think is that this is not just, oh, well, we've done that, put that on the shelf or whatever. We've got to pursue this. And I think the first stage is to send it to the Mayor and find out if he has anything to take on it, or if he take up the sort of things that Caroline referred to. But I think the second point is I want to see a report back here, well, give it 6 months, on where it's got to, because to me, I don't want to see this work. There's been a huge amount of work that's been put in by a line, and it's there. We have the evidence absolutely clearly, even though, as Kevin and Stuart have said, maybe some things are missing, but at least we have the evidence that it's not working. And so therefore, we know that we need funding to make this happen, and the Mayor has the transport in his remit, and that is why we must not allow this to go on that shelf, never to be used for anything. I know money's tight across every area, but we must continue to pursue this, because the future probably is getting people to work on public transport instead of your car, which of course says me, who uses the car all the time. So I'll just bring you in, Kevin, because you've got the proposal there.
And I just wonder, this is the first edition published. Is there a possibility we could get a second edition with just an added paragraph of the barrier of our buses failing into that second edition? I don't know if that's possible, but I feel it's worth mentioning, Chair.
We can have a look at that. Bryn, I hear you've had a problem this morning and understand why you're late, because you've broken down. But David fitted us up with the information.
One bus went past. So thank you, Chair. Sorry about the puncture. Sorted with a temporary one now, so a temporary wheel will do. I've got a few queries and do apologise if you've already covered them. And do you mind if I go through one by one?
Please.
Before we go, because I'm happy to support what Caroline's suggesting.
We'll take yours and then we'll have the vote.
I'm going to page 2.1, where the introduction, and I think it's important to get facts right if you're putting this information out to the public. I have a query in terms of the bullet points of the areas covered by Richmond constituency. Those look like Catterick Village, Hampton, Great Ayton and so on. There's no mention of Hutton, Rugby and Osmotherley there. I think that's important. That's corrected. I don't know, David might have some view on that. And I have a query on the bullet points beneath that, the areas typically described as rural, blah, blah, blah. And then there's some population figures. The Stokesley 2021 census, I think it might be a typo here. Stokesley itself had 4,910, not 4,610. If you look at the 21 census, I presume that you're just referring there to the town of Stokesley, not the Stokesley division, in which case there'd be about another 1,500 people on that. Page 65. We've got a lovely map with various colours on it, showing the bus level of service. I think it could be misleading to the public that the light brown colour there says regular service, but only in off-peak periods. Regular to me could be once a day would be regular. I know for my villages of Kirby, Great Broughton and other villages like Hutton Rugby, that is a 4-hourly service. And I think that should be reflected in the commentary there. So it is a regular service, but it is a limited, only in some cases only 4 times a day. Stokes, it's only every 2 hours. So I think that should be something should be put in to reflect that, if that's okay. And the buses don't go as far from our area. They don't go as far as the train station. It's not an integrated transport system. The buses from Stokes finish in the high street. Sorry. So I'd like some mention of that when you're in the commentary, because that isn't included. I have a query about when you're talking about transport to work and you talk about the businesses and you've done a survey of businesses. Did those businesses include some of the main employers like County Hall?
Can't talk about exactly which businesses were covered, but it did include some large employees.
I think it's important that County Hall is included in that survey. It's the biggest employer in the area, I would suggest.
and the schools and the health service need to be included as well. People travel here from some distance. Oh yes, page 77. Let me get to page 77. This is an appendix with from diagrammatic figure 17, where we talk about bus network diagrammatic map sourced by Hambledon Community Action. I have a problem with that because it doesn't include anything there to the east and north, if you like, of Northallerton. So there's a big chunk missing there. We do exist out in Stokesley, Great Ayton and Hutton Rugby, and that isn't included on their diagrammatic map. So somewhere in the text, someone needs to pick that up and put that bit in. And I think I've covered my points, Chair. Thank you for your indulgence. I've left my phone in the car, which I've got some points on.
I think we think that last one was actually put together by Harbours, I think. Is that correct? So
it is.
It isn't all, which is, of course, where a line has to get the information from.
But I'm just making the point that
Is there, I think the question you're really asking, you produced these things you brought forward. Is there any way, after you've had this committee meeting and some of these questions, any way you can go back and just re-look at that before the report could be put together, well, to actually add to it, and then be able to send it from that? Is that possible?
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't wanting to be negative about the report. I think it's a good report, and you covered so much in it and brought out a lot of important points. I just think there's a few little bits just need refining.
Yeah.
Version 2 or 3, whatever. Yeah. Thank you.
But I think what has happened is all the questions we've been on with, and so consequently we can look at that before we actually we'll leave it to a line to put that together, and then we will send this on to the Mayor, providing you agree to this proposal. So all in favour of the proposal that Caroline put? Thank you. So actually it's still over to you, Louise, on agenda item 10. This is an update on Richmond Town investment plan. And you can explain what we're doing and on this one, because we're moving on now up to Hawes.
Thank you. So yeah, as we've sort of highlighted previously, we're looking at producing town investment plans across 32 towns across North Yorkshire. And we've started work on the Richmond one. So I'm working with Councillor Parsons and the localities colleagues on the Richmond town plan. So we're initially gathering information from local stakeholders. It's been across 5 themes so far. So health and leisure, culture, heritage and events, employment, business and tourism, environment, both built and green, and a community grouping, which includes faith and young people. And this is just to gather initial thoughts about how do they feel about Richmond, what do they like, what are the strengths, what would they like to see changed or improved. So we've got some additional sessions happening with schools and youth groups, some more sessions happening with business groups. And then we will be conducting a wider community engagement piece of work. So that'll be 3 drop-in sessions within July and running alongside a survey just to gather much more information about what the people of Richmond would like to see within this town plan. And then after that, we're also gathering lots of information about existing data, strategy, etc., so that we can then bring together an evidence base about what we would like to be included within the town plan. So that is where we are at the moment. And then, as I say, the next one, there's been some initial conversations starting on Hawes with our localities teams and Councillor Peacock.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, that is, Hawes is the next one on the list, which is, so I'm very interested in the Richmond one as to what is happening there and taking this on to Hawes. And I know the Upperdale talk about declaring interest, the Upper Dales Community Partnership is very keen on being involved in this, because having a plan, because that's basically what this is. As it's having a plan before you start just picking out and getting a bit of funding here to do that and the other. You do need a plan to do this, which I think is a brilliant idea. Any questions, anybody? I'll start with Bryn, then Kevin, and then Stuart.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to see this work go on. Do we have a list of the towns you're going to tackle in the order and timetable you're going to tackle them in?
So for our area, it's likely to be North Allerton that we look at next. There'll be Leyburn, Stokesley, Catterick and Colburn, and then Bedale, but the timings of those have yet to be
So
finalised.
do you think that'll be within this financial year?
I would hope to have started a number of them within this financial year. Yes, some may be in 2026 calendar year.
Can we tighten that up and come up with some sort of plan, please?
Yeah, it's just to do with resourcing, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But yeah, the plan is to get them started, the bulk of them started within this financial year.
Thank you.
Kevin. Stuart.
Me too. Yeah, it's interesting being first, and it's a big learning curve for us. It's a big learning curve for you as well, isn't it? Luckily or unluckily, we've had a town centre forum in the past and things like that, so there's a lot of written evidence that can be spiced up and played around with. And it's also, it is quite difficult trying to get things sorted in a timely manner. We've had to sort of delay doing things that we wanted to do just because there wasn't enough time to get the resources needed and everything else. And it should be interesting. You know, fingers crossed we're going to come up with some interesting results. It's how do you get hold of everybody? How do you get into conversations with people with very limited specialities, but which are vitally important, like Councillor Curran or former Councillor Curran with her disability awareness. Now, I know you're seeing her, so, but it's trying to pull all of these strands in so that we don't actually say, let's do X, and then suddenly discover on an accessibility question, it's impossible. So you've got to really work quite hard at trying to pull all those strands together before you can come up with projects you can take forward. But yeah, it should be fun.
I agree with you, Stuart. I mean, the main thing with this is it's got to involve everybody within that town. And I think especially the businesses, and I think they're always very busy and have their own challenges. But I know already I've spoken to one or two businesses just to get a feeling, and they seem quite keen. They're keen to see something happening, and this is in the Hawes one, of course, but it's very, very, very early days to actually, we're just sort of at the very start of it, but I'll watch what's happening in Richmond. Louisa, have you anything else to say on this?
Sorry, Madam Chairman, the selling point is mutual benefit.
Yes.
And so you've got to concentrate on the whole of the physicality and geographical area. The ones done in Richmond previously had centred much more on the marketplace, forgotten the trading estate and the other wealth generators. So now the intention is to pull all of that together and try and get something good, which will improve the trading estate as well as the town and our employment and everything else.
Thank you. Anybody anything else on that? Thank you. Well, we'll move on. That was just an update, and it'll no doubt be on all our agendas. We'll keep having this, you know, to make sure where we've got to with all the plans. With the next item actually is item 11. It's a discussion item on Yorkshire Water. We've got Yorkshire Water to agree to come to the September meeting, but they would like to know anything that you particularly want them to speak about. I mean, it's been interesting this morning. The utilities have been mentioned. So, but what I would like to, I mean, if anybody has anything that can come forward now, or if not, I was going to say send them to Nikki. We'll start with you, Stuart, since you've got something.
First question is, why are they so useless? because every single report of a leak that goes into them takes 6 months, 9 months to sort out. We had a huge one in Richmond that they kept saying, not us, not us, not us. Had to come back and eventually admit that it was them. And then they tell us we're in a drought situation. Well, quite frankly, had they fixed their pipe earlier, there'd be enough water for North Yorkshire for the next 2 or 3 years, the amount we were losing. Their response times are ridiculous. They use a disjointed system of repairs, so they'll send in company 1 to set up the traffic management. They'll send in company 2 3 days later to dig a hole. The hole's usually dug on a Friday about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you've then got your street blocked over the whole weekend because, of course, they don't work weekends. And then they might come in on the Tuesday or the Wednesday of the following week. And then you've got to wait for their digger to come back and fill the hole, and then people to come and finally resurface the road. There is a much easier and simpler way of doing things, and they are just extracting the Michael as well as the water from the residents of North Yorkshire.
Thank you, Stuart. Well, I think that is a problem, is the amount of time they take, as you say, and we had an issue of that recently, and so a whole week went by and nothing was done. So that's probably one way. Yeah, please do.
Thank you, Chair. Just to advise members, the Yorkshire Water did the same thing for Thirsk and Malton Area Committee at the last meeting and provided quite a comprehensive presentation in response to the questions that members there had submitted. So if members would like to, have a think about it and drop me an email, I'll collate all those together and forward them on to Yorkshire Water. But that is available in the draft minutes for the Thirsk and Malton meeting from June the 13th. So if members wanted to look at that and see just what they brought to that committee meeting, which, as I say, was quite a comprehensive response. Thank you, Chair.
Heather.
Bryn, I'm not sure if David's in with this, but we aren't Yorkshire Water, we're Northumbrian Water. We've got similar problems, but I don't suggest they should be invited along, but it might be nice at some stage to ask them to send us a report. I mean, to be fair, I do engage with Northumbrian Water, and they do seem to be proactive about when they have these problems with drains and stuff. And I do not know that they were supposed to, a plan was coming out that all water authorities had to put in place when there's all these floodings, that they've got to put these like places where that, to stop it. And I'd be interested to know how they compare, but that's not for the next meeting. But Northumbrian Water seem to be going in the right direction. But just to say that, David, are you Yorkshire Water? Are you Northumbrian Water? Are you Northumbrian Water?
Can I just make a comment here? First of all, on the questions, I'm a bit worried. We've only got one question at the moment, is why are you so useless? I'm just worried that we don't start with that one because they might not turn up. We want some soft ones first, Stuart, to get them in the mood. On Northumbrian Water, really, to be fair, certainly in my patch, they are trying. We've had a big leak not far from where I live over the weekend, and they've been there 2 days. It was absolutely gushing out, and at one stage you looked at my chickens were going to run out of water, and they did say, "Don't worry, we do provide bottled water for residents so I'll be feeding chickens with bottled water." But I honestly think they are trying. They do listen to us. We've had a few issues, especially in Faceby, and they are working with us. So maybe we're lucky that we are this side of that divide.
Thank you, David. I mean, it's like anything. We sometimes only have the serious problems rather than the normal. Are you want to come in now, Stuart? Because I've got Bryn next. Oh, second question, right?
We'll Seats Wensleydale and Swaledale. What are they doing to reduce the river pollution that they are causing?
Yeah, well, there is the pollution element, and we know we've got this data now about it, so that can be a question. Bryn.
Yeah, there's Northumbrian Water feeds the Stokesley area, and over the years, the supply to Stokesley has been a problem, which they've got round to sorting at the moment. What concerns me, is the proposed increase in number of houses being built. I think the utility companies like Northumbrian Water might struggle to supply what is proposed for the number of houses. And the sewage treatment works have got a similar problem. There's been problems with effluent flowing into the river and into the local housing estate because Northumbrian Water didn't recognise the issue of an old pumping station which had been served the community for 45 years and was past its point of. They've managed to. They say they've refurbished it and put it in, but there again, when there's something happens in the river and the roots of a tree get up against the outfall and block it, that doesn't help either. But I think the qualities of the rivers, the Tame and particularly, and the Leven, Northumbrian Water need to be more proactive and engaging with the community and saying what they're doing to improve that.
I think we've got a question out of that to put to Yorkshire Water, which is basically about when houses, they actually come in the planning section of it, and they are actually supposed to, which they do, comment on it, but maybe we need to ask them just how close they get to it. Yes, please do.
So on that very subject, Yorkshire Water, when they attended the Thurston Molten, I think they are looking to put on some sort of member seminar with regard to development and Yorkshire Water and the provision and the storage and all the rest of it. So I believe that is in the process of being arranged, but I don't have any more details than that.
We're really not going to debate things now on Yorkshire Water. All we're looking for is questions that we can put, and then we'll find out when they come. Stuart.
Yeah, we have a slight problem. We've got Northumbrian Water, Kevin's got Severn Trent Water, over part of his, and then we have Yorkshire Water. So it seems not quite right that this committee just invites Yorkshire Water, because obviously for those that don't use Yorkshire Water, it's a minor interest compared to those who do. So I think we need to perhaps go away and think about how we would approach all three.
Can you leave that with us, and
yeah.
Nikki will look into that and just see. So just, can we have the name of them? Sorry. What's the name of the third one? Name them for me.
Severn, I think it's Severn Trent that supply the garrison for some unknown reason.
Severn Trent, and the other one was?
Yeah, so there's Yorkshire Water, Northumbrian Water, and we've heard at least from 3 members who are present today that they are under Northumbrian Water. There could be other members, and so it might actually only be 50% of us that are particularly concerned about Yorkshire Water. So we need to work and balance that.
Bryn, is that on this subject?
Yes, it is. It applies for the whole of the county. I'm wondering whether I'm looking at Carl. Is it a subject for a members' seminar for the whole of the members, not just a committee?
I think that was the point that Nikki was making about the presentation that Yorkshire Water gave to Thurston Molten when we were both there, Nikki. We have asked them if they will come and actually do a seminar, but that is Yorkshire Water only as the main supplier for the county. But bearing in mind that we do have Northumbrian, I didn't know about Severn Trent, I have to say. It seems to be a long way away from their place of work. But yes, it is something that we can build into a seminar. But
I think there's 2 things here now. I think one is we're going to find out before September meeting whether the seminar is happening, because it might be better to have the seminar rather than actually having here.
Having specific to development, housing.
So the seminar is specifically to development, a seminar on when we are developing. It isn't specifically on this, so we still need Yorkshire Water to answer these questions. And so that's the important point. But also, I think we should be asking these other ones to actually come to our area committee, because that's what it's covering. This committee is covering as an area. Carl, did you want to come in?
Sorry, it was just to say, I think that it's useful to do both, because if Yorkshire Water come and do the same presentation here as they did at Thurston Molten, they will actually come and tell you about the specific projects that they've got on, the investment that they're actually doing in this constituency.
forward. Have any more actually questions that we're going to be putting to them before they come? Because that's what's important. No. So we'll leave it at that. We have a way forward and we'll take that up. The next thing is the work programme, which I need to look at somewhere here. So do you want to say anything on this, Nikki, while I try and find it? Well, one of the things we are wanting to put onto this is we've got Yorkshire Water now, and I may put the Catterick Integrated Care Centre because it's getting nearly and we need maybe just to update on that, but it may need to go to the November meeting if we end up having too much on the September meeting. So we'll have it down at the moment. The other one I'm looking for is the swimming pool, which I think we'll still want a proper update in September because we'll have had the consultation have gone out. So we do need to know. Now, I asked them to send that out to you, which is basically a press release on the swimming pool, which, to be quite honest, was not very good reading. You know, it's really, we've got a serious problem there. So it'll definitely be on the September meeting with more detail, more what should be happening about the swimming pool. I don't really think we can go into a big debate now, but if anybody has anything to say on, it was basically the press release is what I sent out to all members. So if anybody has anything to say, any suggestions, anything we can deal with, please make it. Stuart.
Well, the press release clearly indicated they required a further 3 months to carry out their estimates and all the rest. So September would be just about the right time to have the full information about what they think it's going to cost, whether they can do some of it immediately or whether they need to do everything immediately. So yeah, that sounds perfect.
Well, that's what I think. I mean, the main thing to me is we need to know how much this is going to cost. We're in a very restricted financial position, is the council. My God, what it would have affected her, say 2 years ago, if this had happened, when she was going five times a week, 5:30 in the morning and all sorts. There is other children that this is affecting, and it is very concerning, but we are where we are. We've got to now make sure that we look forward to getting some, well, relief on the problem we have there. So I'm suggesting we definitely put that on the September meeting. Now, has anybody else got any other thoughts to go on? Bryn.
Yes, Chair. I'm aware that other area committees have their MP come to talk.
Well, you missed my...
Oh, I missed it.
Well, no, exactly. I mentioned at the beginning, we've got Malcolm, of course, here, and what we're trying to do is to get our MP to a meeting. It might mean changing the meeting date.
That's fine.
I did send something, but I haven't sort of heard back yet. So our next meeting, I think, is the 15th of September, which is a Monday, but the Parliament is not sitting, is finishing on the following day because it's for the conferences. So, but I have a feeling we probably won't make September. It may have to be later, and we may have to change our date to a Friday.
I'm sure we can be flexible, Chair.
Well, that's what, if it happens, I'll just make that decision and go for it. David.
Yeah, I just had a constituent asking me about, always concerned about Ash Dieback. I did, she was keen to come to this meeting and put it as a question at the start of the meeting. I've sort of managed to avert that one. And I just thought, well, let's ask first to see if there was any interest in doing anything regarding Ashtar Black via this committee?
What we could do, we could at least ask for some information which we could share with the committee to start off with and see if there's anything in there that would be worthy having somebody to come on agenda item. Does everybody think that would be a way forward? That we would get something from them? A bit like this active one we've got here, which I'll just mention in a minute. Stuart.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because at the moment they're talking about quite a lot of our trees developing their own immunity to it. So, you know, there was that mad panic that we had to go down and chop every single ash tree in the county down. But now they're stating that quite a lot of them will survive and survive well. So it'd be useful to have that non-alarmist update. It might also be useful to ask the few national parks if they would send somebody from their areas to update us on how it's going in their areas.
I think that I was actually thinking of national parks who have probably more information. So leave that with us, David. We'll see what we can do. Anybody else got anything they want to put to the work programme? If not, has everybody had a chance to look at the Let's Talk Active? I mean, I'm lucky that we've had all this at the national parks, and I'm sure North Yorkshire national parks have done the same, and there is quite a lot happening. They actually got funding to take this forward, did the Yorkshire Dales National Park. But it is very interesting, and I think it's really just for our information, if anybody has any particular thing they want to say about it. If not, I think we'll leave it at that. So we've got the date of the next meeting is actually the 15th of September, which we've already discussed. You'll see that there is also the annual report, which you'll have seen. Bryn.
Yes, Chair. The annual report starts off with a map. Have you checked where that map is?
Sorry.
It isn't our area.
If that map, that's in fact, it's completely my fault then.
Sorry.
And I do apologise.
I think it might be Rydale or somewhere, but it's
Is it?
I never, do you know, I should have looked at this and I didn't.
I can't read it anyway.
Well, no, that's probably why I can't read it. I thought I was going blind as well. I think read it, because it's great. Rydale.
I think it's Rydale, but it's not.
I think I had two versions of this report and I obviously changed the map on the other one. I am very, very sorry. Please accept my apologies.
Yeah, it just needs to be right.
I just glanced at this, I did, which is very wrong of me, but as you say, I can't read it anyway. I always just look at the left-hand side and know that's where I am usually. But that is just for information. So unless anybody has anything else, thank you very much, everybody. I think we've had quite an interesting meeting this morning. Thank you.
Why are they trying to compare one with the other?